Welcome to the Verdin Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Verdin. Got G Sports. What up, G? How you doing, man?
What it do?
Got a couple of things we want to talk about. The rumors have been running rampant. If you check Tiger droppings, the forums, you got a lot of people sounding alarm bells, G. A lot of people want to be insiders. A lot of people want to break news. It ain't always that easy, my guy. You got Garrett Nussmeier. Everybody wants to talk about his health. And if you looked at Twitter at first and believe everything you saw, you'd be worried that he's having a surgery. And today, Brian Kelly dispelled that rumor, said that it is misinformation. There will be no need of surgery. It's not a torn oblique. It's actually a strained ab muscle. Now, I'm going to let you react to this, but I want to compare this to something last year. And I'm not trying to say it's the same exact injury. I'm just saying Quinn Ayers was in a similar situation. He had the oblique. He had the actual tear. That was confirmed, and he had a rough season. G, are you worried a little bit from a strained ab, or do you think it's a smaller thing that it ain't gonna matter, especially with this bye week?
I would have to know the details, bro.
Right.
I really would have to know the details because I've seen quarterbacks in the past that have had an oblique injury and still was able to play, at a high level. Of course, you're not 100%, but you still can be 90% of yourself or 85% of yourself. And 85 or 90% of Garrett Nussmeier is pretty good. When you talk about, his arm talent and the throws he can make. What I want to know is this going to be an injury that's going to linger on throughout the season, or does this week that he's off is going to help him going into that South Carolina game? That's the kind of questions I'm gonna be asking. And if it's something that's going to continue to linger on throughout the season and it's not going to go away, then I think Brian Kelly and his staff need to get together and they need to decide if Garrett Nussmeier is the best person to be behind center as we get ready to go into the thick of SEC play. And look, when I say that, that's not me saying that I want him to just take Garrett Nussmeier's job from him, right? That's me saying what's best for the football team.
Yeah.
And if Michael Van Buren is healthy and he can give you the best chance to win, where you don't have to be limited in what you call throughout the course of a game, then you got to go with number 11, bro. But if this week off going to help us and this going to get him to at least 85 or 90% healthy, then you stay with Garrett Nussmeier. Um, I just have my reservations about the injury, bro. I really do. I want to know when the injury took place.
I agree.
Did it take place in training camp? Because I've been hearing different rumors. I heard it happen in fall camp. Then I heard it happen during the Louisiana Tech game. When did it happen? I need to know that because that's gonna give me a good indication on how bad the injury is. And this is why I say that. Some people say it happened during fall camp. Well, shit, against Clemson, he made some throws in that game that was NFL type throws.
Yep.
I'll go back to one of the throws in particular. The one when he's rolling out the pocket and Kyle Parker's coming on a shallow through the middle of the field. He throws across his body on a rope on the money. The pass he threw to Barry and Brown, even though he got overturned, bro, that was an NFL type throw that he threw in the breadbasket. And
Yep.
so, if it happened during fall camp, it showed and he showed and looked like it affected him against Clemson. If it happened after Clemson and throughout the Louisiana Tech game, then okay, it makes a little more sense. That's all I'm saying.
No, I agree with you because in fall camp, two things. That's a good point. The second point would also be at this point in the recovery period, he would be getting toward that back end of it. He would be getting back to his old self, being able to move around loosely. But I'm glad you brought that up about Clemson because we really didn't start questioning any of this until the LA Tech game, until that short throw, the pick, and then now everybody wants to know.
Remember the first drive of the game when they tried to
Yeah,
throw the wheel to I think it was Barrion
it was. It was
and it
very
was
round.
underthrown and Michael Reshaw, the safety for Louisiana Tech, picked it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what started the bad night for the offense.
And then
So,
you only get 24 points, and then
but
that week is when it started to spiral in terms of everybody wondering about the
but
health.
this the key to that's just the key to that too though. That was the first series of the game, bro. He hadn't got hit. I want to say that
That's
was the
another.
first.
Yep.
I want to say that was the first or the second play. So when did this oblique injury occur? I need to know that. That's what's gonna put a lot in perspective for me.
And I want to ask you this too. So, like, how I know what Brian Kelly's ultimate goal is, and it's to make sure that this team is protected and you're not giving up too much information to whether it be an opposing coach or just the league as a whole. Do you think that there's kind of a disservice, though, to saying that Garrett Nussmeier is healthy when he could possibly not be? Because now you got scouts and all these other fans criticizing him. Now, I talked with someone before the stream on this, G, and I feel like scouts, they're going to be able to watch the tape and tell. They don't need Brian Kelly to confirm. They're going to be able to use their own eye. But do you think if he's not healthy, saying he is a disservice? What's your thought on that type of thought process?
I guess it just depends on who you're talking to. Me personally, and this is not me trying to ridicule BK for him coming out and saying that he's dealing with a torso injury. I would have never put that out to the media. That's just me. I would have never put it out there. The only way I would have let the fans and the media know that he was dealing with a torso injury is if we about to make a quarterback change. If we not about to make a quarterback change, I'm not putting that type of information out there. I'm not going to volunteer that because now you're setting yourself up for what? People to start criticizing. Why do you still have Nussmeier playing and starting when you in the thick of the SEC play and he's dealing with an injury? That's what people are going to start to say. They're going to start to say, are you showing favoritism? They're going to start to say, are you making Nussmeier bigger than a program? It's a lot. I'm not saying that's what BK is doing. I'm just saying that's what fans and people are going to start saying. That's the
100%.
narrative that's going to get painted. And then when they asked Nuss after the game against, after the game against Ole Miss, they asked about the injury, and he said he didn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want to make that as an excuse. But BK put it out there, and I'm just a firm believer in that. I would not have put that out there. I just wouldn't have did it.
I agree. And then, I mean, look, if you look in this chat, our very own episode right here, you got people sounding off, people saying that, and this isn't our words, obviously, but people are talking about Nuss and whether or not this is a selfish decision. You got this guy talking about politics. I mean, dog, you don't even got to look that far, and you can see criticism and skeptics of the decision. Yeah, that's a good point, because now you're airing out stuff in the locker room that could potentially put every decision and every time someone reacts to LSU's offense, now it's in the back of their mind when it wouldn't have been prior. So I do agree with that.
For sure, but I don't think Nuss should get any flack about this. Because as a competitor and as somebody that's going into his last year as a collegiate player, bro, I'm going to have a broken leg.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to be down to my last for you to pull me off that field to be able to compete with my LSU Tigers in my final year.
Yep.
So I don't think Nuss should get any kind of backlash behind this because he's doing what any competitor would do.
100%.
He wants to be behind center. He wants to lead his team. He waited his turn for the last 4 or 5 years behind Jaden Daniels and everybody else that was before Jaden Daniels. He wants this moment. And I get it. And I understand it. This is what any type of competitor would do. They want to be behind center and they want to lead their team, bro. So Nuss shouldn't get any flack behind this.
No, I agree. Yeah, because, I mean, this is a dog mindset. At the end of the day, this is what you want from your leader, your quarterback. You want him to be able to go out there, leave no stone unturned. Here's another interesting part about this. Brian Kelly touched on the fact that, run game might be an issue, but what we're going to do is we're going to double down on our strengths. We're not going to woe is me, yada, 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 and just be negative. What they're going to do is they're going to try to tweak the passing game the best way they could. Now, you're going to have to be careful with how you do it because you got to rest Nussmeier. You don't want him throwing all the time, especially during a bye week. So, they go back to the tried and true method of using a VR headset. And obviously, we heard about this with Jaden Daniels, and LSU's super innovative anyway with guys like Jack Marucci and all their sports tech staff. What's your thoughts on this, and how close do you think you can get to simulating practice with a virtual reality headset? Can Garrett Nussmeier sit down this entire week, not throw a football once, and still make improvements in your eyes with this type of tech?
I think the answer to that is yes and no. Everybody are different type of learners. I think it worked for Jane Daniels, but that don't mean it's gonna work for Garrett Nussmeier. Yep. Everybody learn different. Everybody when they getting reps, when you talk about facing defenses and running different formations and route concepts, every quarterback is different, bro. So just because it worked for Jaden, bro, don't mean it's gonna work for Nuss. And people need to understand that. And him not throwing the ball for a week, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, bro. Because if this oblique injury, so let me go back to this. Because I'm not a sports scientist, I'm not a doctor. The torso and the oblique, is this the same type of injury?
Yeah, because your obliques are right here, and we're talking about abdomens right here. He's saying it's a strained muscle here, but the oblique is right here, and it helps you with your rotation of your body.
So it was a torso injury, not then turn into a torso / oblique injury. That's what happened.
I don't know if the oblique was ever confirmed. I think it might have just been speculation. And when Brian Kelly came out today, now he's confirming through his mouth that it's a strained ab and not an oblique. That's what the word is.
But a week ago, he said it was torso.
And he wasn't specific. And I don't know. Yeah, it's two in the air. And look, this is a left field take for me, though. But, gee, the telephone game, the wordplay, like everybody believing certain things and like nobody knowing what to believe by that same token. I'm worried about like how people are going to look. And I'm not trying to say it's right or wrong. I'm just saying I've seen reactions on Twitter. I'm worried about how people are going to look at Brian Kelly and LSU collectively after this year, because you got to keep the boosters, you got to keep the fans, you got to keep everybody kind of happy in this era when you got money floating around and collectives and stuff. Like, I'm not trying to say this is going to directly play a role into it, but I don't want to just sit here I'm not saying say the right things or say the wrong things, but it seems like when you kind of blow and smoke up the fans every now and then, you're going to piss them off and you might lose them. Like, I don't want to lose the fans here. Now, I'm not trying to say that you got to give everything and every information and be honest, because like your point, you did do yourself a disservice by being too open, but I don't like the back and forth that I've been seeing, but it's kind of how it is in this era. I want to ask you about Aaron Anderson real quick before we give our SEC power rankings. So we saw him Saturday, kind of off to the side on the bike, trying to keep his knee loose. He got out the game. He was icing it. That's one of my biggest worries right now. Because, yeah, you got Durham hurt. Weston Davis was out. Nussmeier's hurt. You got a bunch of pieces, a bunch of question marks. This one scares me the most, I feel like, because it's at a point where everything seems to be piling up. There's a lot of worries, if you will. And this injury is not just a knee. It's a knee, it's a hip, and it's a toe. Talk about Aaron Anderson, what he means to the squad, and do you think he could be good through this bye week? Because the word on the street is he should be good for South Carolina. What do you think about that?
Aaron is wide receiver 1. We know that. He's proved it. Last year, he had the most yards on the team on side of Kyron Lease. I think he might have had maybe 50 or 60 more yards than Kyron last season. And so you know what they expect from Aaron. You know what he brings to the table. Having said all of that, this is why you win the portal. This is why you ain't got Nick Anderson. This is why you ain't got Barron Brown. This is why you ain't got Bauer Sharp. They should be able to make up for Aaron Anderson's production with the people that you ain't got in the portal, along with Xavier Thomas, Chris Hilton. Still waiting for Destin Hill to be able to implement himself in the offense. Jelani Watkins, Kyle Parker. I'll even throw Colin Billiard in there because he has some length. He's the only one on that team that has length besides Nick Anderson.
Yep.
They have other people in that room that could make up for Aaron Anderson production. So this is LSU, bro. They got talent in that room. And I don't think Aaron not being 100% will hurt them as much as if Nuss can't be the best version of himself. So even though, we know Aaron, what he brings to the table, and you know the chemistry he got with Nuss and the experience factor and all those things and how dynamic he is, they still should be able to have a lot of production out of that room, even if Aaron Anderson is not healthy, bro. That's just my personal opinion. Everybody might not look at it like that.
Yeah, you got a lot of pieces, a lot of weapons. The thing that just hit me at first, I'm like, man, we can't take another knock in the offense in terms of your depth, your pass game, all this stuff, all the injuries piling up. It's the toughest part of the season because that's the stuff you're not predicting. You're not predicting injuries. You're not predicting penalties. You're not predicting these rough last-minute moments. All right, before we hop out of here, let's do our SEC power rankings. Gee, a lot has changed since last week. Oh, my God. Look, I had to completely edit everything. I'm interested to see your reaction when I pop this up on the screen. Boom, here we go. Alabama debuting into our power ratings. They beat Georgia. I got them at number 1. I'm going to explain everything. I'm gonna explain everything.
Oh, I
Look,
gotta
this
hear
top
this.
four. Yep, I'll give it to you. The top four, I feel like it's so damn hard to predict at this point because A&M and Ole Miss, I think, are so close. I really don't know who to put where. I'm being respectful here because I think at this point of the week, I've seen more consistently from A&M. I like A&M. I'm gonna keep them in the middle of the pack. Ole Miss obviously jumps LSU. LSU falls to the bottom because Jesus, I don't think they're an SEC contender no more. It could be an overreaction. They could prove me wrong. I'm worrying about Oklahoma. I'm worrying about Bama. I'm biting my teeth or my tongue on Vandy. I'm not trying to say they're going to lose those games. That's not a contender in my eyes anymore. If you're a top two in my ratings, you have to be what I consider a lock for the SEC championship. After this weekend, I think the best two teams in the SEC are Georgia and Alabama. And Georgia, I kept them at 2 because they had a chance to win the game, G. And I'll break it down. The red zone, they go for it on 4th down. They're at like the 8-yard line. They don't get it, get smushed, lose 3 yards on that run. If you kick that field goal, you go to overtime and you turn this into Penn State and Oregon. And now you don't know who wins. Georgia, they got an ability also to just forget this game and get back to the promised land. Because last year they lose this game. They still win the SEC title. Do they have a great playoff run? No. I'm going to give Alabama a little more credit too because Ty Simpson is nice. And Ty Simpson's playing better than a lot of people that returned that I thought would have been a top SEC quarterback. And I'm not going to throw shade at anybody. I'm just going to say throwing for 276 and 2 and a nice win is going to make me kind of feel like you're one of the more consistent producers here because I haven't seen numbers like that from top guys. Last point for Alabama, Jam Miller, G. That was the X factor. That was the thing that made me nervous. Quite frankly, that's the thing that made us lose our pick. I would have swept last week if Georgia would have showed up between the hedges. They didn't. Why? I think they had a little bit extra oomph in that offense. We talk about Ole Miss because this is probably the worst ranking on here. And I know I didn't know if I should put them at 3. I know if I should put them at 4. This is just the way it kind of felt in my stomach. I think that there was a couple of flaws. You talked about the penalties. I thought that was a good point. I just think the matchup versus LSU was in Ole Miss's favor. But by that same token, I don't think Ole Miss beats a Georgia. I don't think they get that done. I don't think they can do that. But obviously could get proven wrong. LSU, I'm going to say one more thing before I toss you the floor. You could prove me wrong. I don't want you to be here. They're lower than this year in these rankings. Ole Miss is actually the number 1 ranked SEC team per the AP poll, but I ain't buying it. All right, G, let's hear it.
I'm going to have to respectfully disagree once again.
All right.
How could you have Georgia and Alabama in front of A&M and Ole Miss, and A&M and Ole Miss is undefeated? And A&M got some impressive wins against Notre Dame, and it just beat Auburn. Bro,
I just feel like Alabama and Georgia are beating those teams, and if they played next week, I'm not picking Bama to beat A&M or Ole Miss, or excuse me, vice versa. I don't think
I gotta see it first. I gotta see it first. As of today,
I see that.
As of today, Ole Miss is the number 1 team in the SEC.
Okay.
Texas A&M will be 2. I will go with Bama number 3, Georgia number 4, LSU number 5.
So if you're predicting your SEC title game right now in your head, it's Ole Miss and A&M in Atlanta.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I say as of today. As of today.
That's what I'm saying. As of today, I think my SEC title game would be Bama and Georgia. Who would you?
There's a lot of football left to be played. You think Bama ain't gonna lose again? Bama gonna lose again.
There's a lot of football. I'm just trying to make.
Bama gonna lose again. Bama ain't about to just run the table, bro.
Weeks. I like Bama and I like Georgia. And look, they could lose again. I think you can make that point for every team on here. LSU will lose multiple times again. Ole Miss will probably lose to Georgia again. A&M, they got tough games. LSU being one of them at home in Death Valley. The winner of that series has been the home team in the last 7 years. So I feel like that one's an asterisk for them. And then obviously Georgia has an L, Bama has an L. Bama though, bro, like the expectations around them were horrible because week 1 they lost to Florida State. FanDuel made an interesting point. And I'm not trying to say this is right or wrong. This is all hypotheticals, but I'm just saying if they were to have a rematch at a so-called neutral site, Bama would be an 8.5-point favorite. So Bama's got some oomph on them. They got a talented roster. I think Kalen DeBoer could potentially maybe get Alabama back to Atlanta. That's what I'm feeling. If I had to pick the SEC title game, if you had to, if you were holding me hostage, you know, the only way I was getting out is if you said you got to get Atlanta right, brother. I'm gonna go
I wish people
Georgia and Bama.
I wish people could go back and read and listen to my take on when everybody was talking about Kalen DeBoer after the week 1 loss to Florida State. What I kept saying, everybody being a prisoner of the moment. Yeah, I'm like, everybody not giving this man a chance. This is his second year at Alabama. Pump the brakes, let it play out.
And he got another big win in Georgia where nobody, including myself, thought it was going to happen. Respect to Alabama.
That
Right
boy
now, at
2-0
this
against
point,
Georgia.
yeah. And Georgia, look, Kirby Smart didn't want to hear nothing about that record versus Alabama afterwards. He said, what is
Who's your
everybody else's
daddy?
record?
Who's your daddy?
Kirby Smart got murked, man. Oh, Lord, American Patriot. Come on. This dude says Ole Miss and A&M never going to the SEC title game. All right, chill
That's
out.
how I
And
know
then
whoever American Patriot is. That's how I know you're not a good listener. You're not a good listener.
This guy said Bama's running for 250 on Ole Miss.
You're not a good
What the
listener,
heck?
American Patriot. He asked, and we're talking about, as of today, who are the top 5 teams in SEC. I didn't
Yeah.
say Ole Miss and A&M was going to be in the SEC championship. I said, as of today, Ole Miss number 1, A&M number 2. Gotta listen. We gotta be good listeners, man.
We about to hop out of here. We're gonna have our Friday show recorded, uploaded for you at 1 p.m. live premiere. Make sure you're there. We're gonna be doing our top 3 picks. It'll be interesting. Got a shake up week. Got a week where you might have lost your lead, bro. We're gonna have to check it out. We're gonna have to look at it. I don't know. We'll see. Appreciate everybody for tapping in. Y'all hit that like button. We'll be back Friday, 1 p.m. Y'all be there.